Hello, this is the Answer Lady, cabling on my favorite looms, Kiss looms. I hope you'll enjoy cabling right along with me.
Welcome to Kissable Cables. Some of the movies in this series have specific reference to this bunny cable, which you can find on my website. So we will talk about knitting a bobble for a tail, making 4x4 crosses, which are rather challenging, making 2x2 crosses, and in here, where you can't see it very well, is a pair of 2x2 crosses done to define the top of the head. That has some special challenges, so we'll talk about that. And then these are crosses that are not crossing knit stitches with knit stitches. So they allow the ears to move on the background, and we'll talk about those. Even if you have no interest in a bunny cable, you may want to watch these because they will help you so much with the general cabling techniques that you might like to use in any project. Today we want to make a really big cable, 4 stitches crossing over 4 stitches, which on a loom is quite tricky, but I have figured out a way to do it. It matters whether you are right or left-handed. I'm right-handed, so I'm making this row, the cabling row, starting at the right side of the loom. And I think you will want to reverse the action if you are left-handed, and you'll see why very clearly in just a moment. I'm purling up to the point of the cable. Now, I'm going to actually make some stitches with a crochet hook, but they will be knit stitches. So we'll need to pick them up from the front, like that. However, I'm not going to do them in order. We're going to do this as a cable. So, there's my working yarn. 1, 2, 3, 4 that will get crossed behind. So I'm going to start with stitch 5. Pick it up from the front. Knit the working yarn through it. Try to make a stitch about the same size as the others. The ones knitted on the loom the normal way. 2. 3. And 4. There's a trick to this. If you were really crocheting this yarn, you would probably use a thicker hook than this. This is a 6.5 millimeter, so it's not too far off from what we would use. But we have to be able to get our crochet hook in here. So you've got to compromise. Now these stitches are knitted. We're now going to cross them and knit the next batch at the same time by picking up the stitch that was really the next in line, knitting it. Next one, pick it up, pull the loop through. Notice that all the loops are building up on the hook. We're not actually knitting them off or crocheting them off as you normally would for crocheting. If that happens to you, don't panic. It happened to me because I'm working around the camera. It probably won't happen to you. But it's ready to knit now. Be careful not to split your yarn. Only one more to go. Pick it up from the front. Remember, these are knit stitches. And there they all are. Now we put them on the loom in the order where they are now presented, because we've already done the cable cross. Make sure not to twist them, but if you do twist them, it's easily corrected. There's no reason to panic if you get something wrong. The way this whole thing got started is a friend showed me a hand-knitted bunny cable. Looks like a little bunny rabbit. and she was hoping that she could knit it on a loom. Well, as all of you know, the loom is just wonderfully versatile, but it's got a couple limitations, and one of them is how many stitches can we easily cross. So we weren't going to be able to knit the bunnies behind if we didn't come up with a new technique. And this is the technique I've come up with so far. One of the things that makes it work is the fact that I'm using a small gauge loom, so these spacings are very narrow side to side, but I have it adjusted for a bulky yarn by putting lots of washers in between the pegboard and the pin board. Last stitch, completed cable. I'm not sure how well that's going to show up for you, but there's a look underneath. And now, since we outline our cable or make it show up better by purling on the outside of it, oops, I nearly knitted that stitch again, which is wrong. These last three are purl stitches. Now what I'm going to do, I'm still developing the bunny cable. I've come up with a few options. There's more than one way to do it, and you can get specific shapes and looks of bunnies by altering it slightly. So what I'm going to do is not make a video just on that, but make technique videos like this one and then post the options for you on the KISS pages on my website, so you can go there to decide how you want to knit your bunny cable. Here is one of the ones. That I've made. I think that his ears should have been a little bit longer, but as I said, I'm still working. I am ready to knit my next 4x4 cross. For this particular bunny, I believe I knitted 5 rows after the bobble row. So 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches will be actually knitted second. I thought you might like to see this again. Pick up this knit stitch from the front, pull a loop through, do the rest of them in order. 3, trying to make my loops about the same size as the stitches. 4. Now this is where it really matters that we used a small gauge loom with a lot of washers. I have 7 in there so as to be able to knit number 5 yarn, because I could not do this effectively over the width of the dragon loom. This back up part where I pick up what should have been the first stitch had we been knitting straight. I tried it multiple ways, and so far this is the only one that I've been pleased that I got a good tight defining cable cross. So we do what we have to do. 2 more to go. I have a stitch trying to jump off, and just watch for that. It does happen because we're manipulating this so much. But you can put it back. And here are the stitches. They're all made in their new order. You can see the cable forming. And we take them off. The beautiful thing about the crochet hook is, if you had a reason that you wanted to work them in reverse order, you can. You can just slide it and work this one off first. But I definitely think that right-handed people will prefer to work this on a right-to-left row, and left-handed people will prefer to do so on a left-to-right row. I try to learn to do most of my knitting things both-handed, and perhaps I will one day for this, but I'm not there yet. It is a little bit challenging. But here we are, cable cross complete. Now, why did it matter that we used this? Because I never did really lift all 8 stitches and swap them like we normally do. I really knitted a row that would normally be done with swapping without having the stitches on the pegs. And the pressure on the pegs and the yarn is so much when you try to cross more than 2 by 2 that you usually have to lengthen your stitches, and lengthening your stitches gives you poor definition. These cables cross tightly. You can see up in there. That looks like a real cable, and you get something that looks sloppy and doesn't do the job you want if you try to cross 4 over 4 on a loom with elongating stitches.